The psalmist says, I ain't gonna fear. And beloved, I like that in the verse because you and I need to understand that the Lord has not given us the spirit of fear, but He gave us a spirit of love, a spirit of joy, and a spirit of sound mind. And I tell you how to deal with the situation, and that is when you get down in the dumps, preach this to yourself, trainer. Just start telling the Lord, Lord, I trust you. In other words, when the devil attacks you and tell you that you won't make it out of this valley, in other words, you can tell the Lord, Lord, I trust you. Listen, can I help you out? Can you imagine a little child looking up to his daddy? And the father says, son, we don't have any food to eat. Call him like that. And we may have to move out of here because I don't have the money to pay the rent. And can y'all imagine the child looks up at his daddy, looks up at his father and says, Father, I trust you. What the child is really saying is, I don't know how it's going to be made, but Father, I trust you that you're going to make a way. And the same way it is with our children, same way it is with y'all. You see, you gotta know, I feel pretty good. I know, I won't tell you, fathers, I know it looks rough for you, but you got to learn to look up at the Lord and say, Lord, I trust you. And is there anybody in the house today besides myself that have decided to say, Lord, I trust God? Because look, when you learn to lean on Him and all of your ways acknowledge Him, somebody read the text, for He will direct your path. You got to, because you really cannot trust anybody else, because everybody else could just possibly let you down. I say that because they are limited in their step, but my God is able to do anything but fail. So as I make farewell to leave you today, fathers, notice what the psalmist says as it relates to being favored by the Almighty. David says to us today that number one, you and I have to accept the reality of the valley. Number two, you and I have to acknowledge or announce our response in being in that valley. But number three, you and I have to acknowledge our resources, while we're in the valley. And what David is saying to us today is that when you look at me, it appears to be, and it seems like I'm all by myself. David says, but in other words, when you look at me, it looks like I'm traveling all alone by myself. But David says, I need to tell you today, don't feel bad for me. Don't have no pity party for me, because I'm not by myself. You see, the person that's with me, you may not be able to see him, but I need to tell you that he's always there. Don't take my word for it. Let's look at Psalm 23 and 4 again. For David says, because thou, somebody reading that, art with me. He said, yeah, I'm in this valley, but I'm not in here by myself. I'm going through, yeah, I'm in it, but thank God He's with me. And can I tell you, I'd rather go to the doctor with Jesus than to turn around and go to the doctor and he cut on me and I ain't got Jesus. Can I tell you, I like that because this God of mine that I love and I serve will, get this, change his position. Whenever David Trainer get into serious trouble. Because notice what David says in verse 2 of that 23rd Psalm. David says, He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me besides the still waters. And David goes on to say in verse 3 by saying, the Lord restoreth really saying, and the Lord started off by leading me